Welcome everyone to our first official new content, if you will, on Ryan Parker Studios. So our first main content is going to be doing some smoking here, and we are going to smoke a rack of ribs, and we are going to use what is known as the 3-2-1 method. Now there are lots of ways to smoke ribs and cook ribs. Everyone has their own style. That's what's so great about cooking, is you can put your own twist on it, but there's also heavy debate on it as well. But again, we're doing the 3-2-1 method. What is the 3-2-1 method? It's a total of 6 hours of cooking. 3 hours will be for smoking. 2 hours is going to be for rendering, and then the last hour is to just finish up and crisp it and do your mop if you're going to do a wet rib. So right now we are going to go ahead and get the smoker started. Now I have a Pit Boss combo, and it is the Pro Series, and it's a pellet grill. I've gone through a couple of different ones, but I kind of like the pellet grill, especially for long smokes. And we're just going to take a look really quickly at the type of wood I have, and we'll talk through my thought process. But again, everyone will have their own style, their own taste, their own likes. So this is how I like to do it. Give it a shot. If you like it, then yay, you found a new one. If not, you can always tweak it to find what suits your tastes better. So let's take a quick look. Here's what I have. This is a mixture. What I have is a Pit Boss competition blend, and I get mine from Lowe's. So it has an underlying oak with maple, hickory, and cherry. Now, I use the competition blend because really, as an amateur smoker, I don't want to have a bunch of different types of wood, which is technically what you should have depending on the meat you're smoking. Some is just too heavy. Like, you don't want to use a mesquite for a fish because that would just really overpower it. You want something light like cherry or apple wood. And on the flip side, you don't want to use really just a light apple wood if you're doing brisket, because the smoke won't penetrate enough into the denser meat. So there's a whole theory behind it. I have found, though, this competition blend that has a mixture of all three levels really gives me the taste I like regardless of what type of meat I need. So I can just buy this one competition blend, and I've used it for fish, pork, chicken, turkey. I've used it for ribs, I've used it for brisket, I've used it for beef brisket, and it's all given me a really good smoky flavor. So that's what I'm using today, is the Pit Boss competition blend from Lowe's. So first things first, we've got to start the grill up, we've got to bring it up to temperature, and then while this is coming up to temperature, we're going to bring out the ribs and let it get to room temperature before we start to do all the fixins and trimmings and getting it seasoned. So we're going to go ahead and kick this on 225. So let's get this smoke started. Let the fun begin. I ended up switching out microphones, so excuse me if the volume changed a little bit, but I figured this is going to be easier. Next up, we have our ribs here. Now we're doing St. Louis style. That's my favorite style to smoke. So they've been sitting out getting to room temperature. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and prep it. You don't want to just take it out and throw it on the grill. We want to check the fat and see if there's any thick hard pieces. If there are, we're going to cut those out, because hard fat is not going to dissolve into that liquid that helps to break down and make them nice and fall off the bone. And then the other thing that we're going to want to do is remove the membrane from the back. That way it allows smoke to penetrate both the top and the bottom, so you get a nice round smoky flavor. So let's go ahead and get this prepped as far as the fat and membrane, and then we'll talk a little bit about binders and the flavoring that we're going to put on it. And you're going to be able to tell if you just feel it. If you feel something that's super hard, then that's the parts that you're going to want to cut. But any of this like soft squishy stuff is fine because it's going to render down and help add flavor. Now this is always the fun part, to be honest, because sometimes the membrane comes off easy and sometimes it is just a complete pain in the butt. So we are going to give this a shot, and the membrane is going to be from this section kind of down here. This is all good. That's just straight up meat. So I'll try to zoom in a little bit and hopefully you'll be able to see the membrane. Okay, so you can see right here, there's this flap. I'm going to try to pull some of it apart and then move back so you can see it. So there you go right here. You can see this little flap right here. That's the membrane. And so we want to rip that off to give all of these ribs on the lower part some of that permeated smoke. So like I said, sometimes it comes off easily. And I've seen these people who are just like, they take it off in one fell swoop. For me, whatever reason, it likes to fight me every frickin' step of the way. Of course, it wants to shred. If you can't get it all off, it's not the end of the world, but I'll bring you guys back once I'm done fighting. All right, I've got as much of the membrane off as I can. To be honest, this guy right here was not cooperating. Let's just put it that way. So if you know of an easier way to pull these membranes off, let me know, because this guy kept slipping through my hands. Even with the knife, I couldn't get it. So anyway, onward. Binder. So a binder is what you're going to put on the meat that will help the seasoning stay attached to the meat while it's cooking and get those flavors in there. There's three main ones. You have mustard, which I use mustard on my briskets. You have oil, which is what I'm going to do on the pork. I just have some vegetable oil here. And then Worcestershire sauce. So those are the three most popular. But really, it's whatever complements your meat and whatever hits your taste buds. Some people have used maple syrup. I've heard a few people talk about using Chick-fil-A sauce, actually, to put on their ribs. But today, we're just going to do straight up vegetable oil. And then I'm going to actually use a mixture. My go-to is this one right here, which is Buc-ee's barbecue rub. So if you've ever eaten at Buc-ee's and had their brisket, this is some of the rub that they use in addition to their straight up brisket rub. I love this on pork. And then another one I'm going to add, just for a little hint of flavor, is this maple chipotle rub. So we're going to put a little bit of oil on the bottom, sprinkle it with the seasoning, flip it over, do the same thing to the other side, and then we're going to get this out and get it smoking. So let's add a little bit of oil. And then I pat it in. Don't rub it in, because if you rub, then you'll tear the meat. So just a nice pat, 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 pat. So we are here at our smoker. We're at 225, and it's time for our first round. Again, 3 hours. We're gonna do the meat up, bones down for this first round. If you wanna stick a probe in the thickest part of your ribs, you can. However, I've done this method so many times that I know it's fine. Usually actually at the end of taking them out of the foil, so after 5 hours, they're normally ready and fall off bone, but I usually put them back in to crisp it up and do a barbecue mop. So let's go ahead, open up the grill. We're gonna open and close it as quickly as we can so we don't lose too much. So let's get this started. All right, 3 hours. We are almost at our 3-hour mark. And so we are going to go ahead and prep what we need to do the wrapping. So we're going to need some aluminum foil. It's better if you have the heavy duty. I'm going to use some butter. I'm also going to use some beer. And we're going to add a little bit more seasoning. So we're going to go ahead and cube up some butter. And then we're going to head outside and get ready to do the next phase, which is going to be 2 hours wrapped. So again, we're just going to cube up some butter. This round, I have an old Miller Lite. I have some tongs, got my heavy duty aluminum foil, and then good old Bucky's sauce. All right, so let's start off with seeing how these suckers look. Oh yeah, that is starting to look good. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to get ourselves prepped here for a rack of ribs. Gonna go ahead and throw some butter on here, throw a little more seasoning. All right, and then we're going to do meat side down on top of the butter, and then we'll add the beer. And I'm also going to rotate which side the ribs are on inside. So now we're taking the beer, and this is mainly for added flavor. And we've got the beer poured in here. Now you can add an extra wrap if you want, just in case. So now with the butter and the juices and the beer, it's going to be able to really get in there and start to break up the tendons and make it just fall off the bone. So you want to do the same thing to the second one. Okay, so now we're back in for another 2 hours, and this is going to render down, make them nice and pliable and fall off the bone. And then we're going to come back in 2 hours and finish it up with 1 more hour outside of the foil with an occasional barbecue mop. So we are officially at the end of our 2 hours, meat down, foil wrapped, to get all that nice juicy love and really make it tender. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up. We'll take them out and then let them sit on here for another hour, and then we'll come out every so often with some barbecue sauce, and I have a little orange barbecue mop. I'll show you what that looks like later. And we're going to just kind of put that good loving barbecue on top before we're finally ready to smack down on these suckers. Woo! Actually, you know what I'm going to need? I'm going to need my gloves. Now we're ready. I have my gloves. So these are really good. I can pick up nice and hot things. The one drawback with these, though, is they are fabric. So if it's really juicy and it gets wet, then, you know, the wetter it is, the more heat it will relay to my hand. So we're going to be careful. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I can hear that sizzling. Didn't mean to slam it that loud, sorry. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and open these up. And actually, I'm going to show you what it looks like. So here's what we're looking like right now. Technically, these would be good to eat, but I like to cook them just a little bit longer. First, I need to drain some of my juices out. Don't worry, I'm going to spray that off later. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and flip this over. This one already did get a little, you can see it's already starting to fall off the bone. So there we go. So we've done a 3-hour smoke, a 2-hour render in the foil wrap. Now we got 1 more hour with an occasional barbecue mop. And then these suckers are gonna be ready to eat. But you can see right here, that's already starting to fall right off the bone. Okay, just an hour more and then we're ready. Okay, so we are back. About 30 minutes this has been sitting here. And now for the last 30 minutes, every 15 minutes, I'm gonna do a wet mop. So what you do is you get one of these. Again, I'll have this link below. It's just a little mop kit, barbecue mop kit from Amazon. And then your barbecue sauce of choice. We do Buc-ee's. So let's do our first mop. I'm gonna bring this little piece in to Mel because she's super hungry. All right, but then we'll come back here in another 15 and I'll take a look, and more than likely I'll put a little bit more on there. It doesn't need to be a ton, but there you go. We got our first mop done. Okay, we are back for one more light dusting. All right, a few more moments. Okay, let's do this. Yeah, baby. Time to take these inside and cut them on up. What are your thoughts so far? Okay, last but not least, it is time to slice these up into edible slices. So I have, actually, this is my brisket slicer. But let's take a look and look at that pretty darn beautiful smoke ring right there. There you go. So one thing when it comes to smoking, regardless of what you're smoking, patience. Patience, Peach. I cannot stress that enough. In all of my years, when I first started, I got super impatient to eat and would turn up the heat and rush it and ruin meat. Be patient. I don't cook, other than this 3-2-1 method, I cook nothing else by time. I cook everything else by temperature. So with this, I've done it enough and monitored it with temperature probes when I first started to know that this method, 3-2-1, when you're done and you'll be fine. Just leave it on 225 the whole time. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and cut this up and then we're gonna get down and eat. And there's our finished product. Not too shabby if I do say so myself. So, nummy, 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 nummy is all I got to say. Thank you so much for stopping by and looking at our first foodie video on Ryan Parker Studios. I hope you enjoyed seeing the process for the 3-2-1 smoke method for competition St. Louis ribs. Give me a comment below. Have you ever tried this? What do you do different when you smoke ribs? So, we will see you guys the next time. Keep on smoking.